Hey, it's Tim, Pickup Truck Plus SV Talk, joined by the 5-1 of the world, Jill Ciminillo, who just unmuted me, by the way.
I know, I'm like, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Yeah, I have a coffee cup, and it says, sorry, I was on mute. I should grab it. It's above my head. Anyways,
we're doing him on mute, that's all.
Right. Yeah, just mute your boss. That's great. We're doing a special live stream tonight, special edition. We're talking only Tacoma tonight. That's it. I'm not talking anything else. I was just curious, you guys have questions, what's going on, and what your questions were from the comments that we've gotten throughout the day. We had 2 website posts and 2 videos go live. And I've been answering comments on different Facebook groups and things like that. So I thought, well, let's just invite the comments here. And then also, the fact of the matter is I'm going to buy a Tacoma next year, hopefully. I have an order placed.
Okay, so that was said with very little fanfare.
Well,
by the way, I'm buying a Tacoma. Let's talk about something else. What the hell? No build up, no nothing. I'm sitting here eating pretzels because I'm like, he's gonna build this up, but he's got nothing.
Well, the reality of things is I don't know much. It's kind of like people keep asking me for the stuff, and I'm like, I don't really know that much about the truck. Although, thanks to our spec chart, which I should pull up on the website, I have another few more details, I guess. But people keep asking me. It's I make it public.
But you could have said, "All right, we're talking about Tacoma tonight, so I guess that means you know what I'm going to buy."
Okay, thanks for the yeah. Okay, moving along. There's a spec chart on pickuptrucktalk.com, and so I am trying. I have an order in. I'm on the first like 200 or so going to get this truck. TRD off-road. Blue. What the color I tell you? Cosmetic, something like that. It's something weird blue. But there is, as I scroll down, there's an options list on the spec sheet that kind of gives me a little more details on what it's supposed to be a fully loaded version of. Gosh, I'm scrolling forever. This is how long this.
God, did you really have to put everything in there?
Yeah, I just thought, what the heck? It was easier than going through and deleting stuff one by one.
Not really.
Because of the thing too is the build and price tool is not live yet, which is really frustrating. That you can't like spec out with this. Okay, options and packages. TRD off-road premium package. Here it goes. So it's supposed to be a TRD off-road premium package, which is P. It's a package on the TRD off-road trim, which includes heated and ventilated 8-way power adjustable seats, front seats, leather trimmed heating steering wheel. We'll see if that's better than the Tundra. 14-inch multimedia display, multi-train monitor, premium JBL audio with JBL Flex portable speaker. I'll be curious about that JBL Flex speaker. That's going to be interesting to play around with that a little bit. Power moonroof, pre-wired auxiliary switches, AC power inverter, smart key with digital key technology, digital rearview mirror, towing technology package including trailer brake controller, power tailgate, power horizontal rear window, and more. And more. Okay. And I was going to look, I think at the bottom it said colors. Okay, exterior colors. Blue Crush Metallic. That's it. Blue Crush Metallic. Could have been Orange Crush like the Broncos I root for, but no, Blue Crush Metallic. Price is $42,900 plus destination fee plus the optional package. So I don't know, man. 50,000, probably in that range would be kind of my guess. Yeah, so that's kind of what the deal is, and here's the reason why. I guess a couple reasons why I did that was, number one, the Tundra had such a huge following last year before. I wanted to kind of do the same similar thing. Number two, you can't really order a Tacoma. You can't order Toyota vehicles anyways. It's not going to happen. They don't allow you to order vehicles, and so I basically got what was available. What was allocated coming through. The double cab with a 6-foot bed would take longer to come to the dealer, so I couldn't do that, and I couldn't really spec out what I wanted as far as details. And I really don't have any more details. That's all I got for you. That's all it is. I'd love to give you lots more details, but until Toyota releases more details, I don't have more information.
And by the way, I I responded to William with a laughing emoji on this one. He said, Jill, did he order a manual gearbox? We know what he did to his old farm truck. Sacrilege, I do say. Yes. Total sacrilege. And yeah, no, he did not order a manual gearbox.
No, I mean, I can drive a manual. I just don't like to. I just don't choose to. It's not my thing. I know that Joe's going to attack me on this, but still. So, let's see. Pretzels isn't supposed to be about tacos. You just put a meatloaf in the fridge. We just had fajitas, so I'm closer than she is. They're meatloaf in the oven. All right, so let's
sorry for my snacking, but I did just get back from the gym, and I'm just like, I gotta have something because now I have an hour before I'm going to eat dinner. So I apologize.
So Jill, this is a question for you. Squeeze Square wants to know, how did you like the manual transmission?
So, you know what? This was really interesting because I think we were driving pre-production vehicles, and I feel like the first vehicle that we drove with a manual transmission was a little bit sloppy, and it didn't feel good. But the second vehicle we drove with a manual transmission, so we drove out with a manual transmission and drove out back with a manual transmission. I thought that the second vehicle we drove with a manual transmission felt a little bit tighter and better, and I liked that. So, if I was just going to be judging based on the first vehicle that we drove, I would have said it was okay. We were on Mulholland Drive, which is, if you're not familiar, it's a very twisty, turny road.
Yeah,
twisty, turny road. I mean, it's more suited to sports cars, and thank goodness Tim doesn't get car sick, because we were literally like, and then it has some ups and downs as well. And I felt like that I needed to be like, in my car, I would have been in like third or fourth gear, but like in the Tacoma, I kept it in second gear because like going up hills, it just didn't have enough power in the first vehicle. But I felt like with the second vehicle, it somehow worked better. So I'm gonna chalk it up to pre-production, and I'm also gonna chalk it up to the fact that manual transmissions, not all of them are the same. Like you can get in an automatic transmission vehicle, and it's pretty much the same experience. But in a manual transmission, you need to learn the clutch point, you need to learn the shift points, you need to learn what gears you have to be in for the terrain and for the road and for whatever you're going to be in. So, I mean, I would need to spend a little bit more time with the truck to really get comfortable with it, to really understand how the gearbox operates. So, but I mean, like I said, in the second vehicle, it felt better to me. So, but I still need more time with it.
Yeah, I want to point out a couple more things that you alluded to a little bit. But the first, so let me back up. This event, we picked up the trucks at the hotel. We drove 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes, wasn't even that long, to a centralized location, which is basically some ranch like event center with a really short off-road course. Then you spent all the time doing much you could around that, filming as much as you could, then you drove back. That's what we had. But in the first truck, we had manual seats.
Yeah.
And the second truck, we had automatic seats. And so I did not have any issues with the manual transmission because we swapped on the way out. But we did notice that Jill's seating position with her reach for her feet was definitely impacted by the manual seats. And I think the difference there was the automatic seats you were able to move up a little bit closer or better.
For me, like the automatic seats put me up higher, which meant that I could see better. So I don't think the seats had anything to do with it. And you like really only drove the first vehicle for like 5 seconds because I drove the whole way and we're like, oh my God, we're there. And so we went beyond it. Then we did a driver swap, and he essentially had a straight road to get back to the point where we were. So I'm going to say you didn't really have an opportunity to test that first vehicle super well.
Well, and also that behind the scenes was kind of funny was on the way back, it rained and our shoes were wet. And so Jill was slipping around the clutch.
My feet kept slipping off the sport pedals, and I was just like, okay, that's bad. And I had on tennis shoes, so it wasn't like I was wearing like flip-flops or fancy high heels. I was wearing tennis shoes.
But our shoes were soaked, so there's a little bit in that as well. I also thought it was interesting that we were in manuals to begin with. The take rate in manuals is usually 10-15%, but it felt like the majority of trucks there
were manuals.
Maybe not majority, but it did feel like the majority.
I would say half. There were a lot of manuals.
It was a lot of manuals, and I told I told Sheldon, I told some other people there. I said, the problem with manuals at a drive event like this is, like you said, every manual drives differently, and you have to learn it, and you can't just throw it in. Here you go. Here's a weird terrain. Here's a drive you've never been on. Drive this truck you've never been in your life, and here's a manual transmission. Like, it's just like, what in the world? And then you come back from this first drive event. It's like, how do you like it? Should I order one? Well, it's really hard to say definitively. I mean, it's I've read some other reviews on it today, and it's hard to say one way or the other. And again, it's because of this short time period.
Yeah, and you have to take any first drive review that you see, not just from us, but from anybody else out there, with a grain of salt, because you literally have like an hour or two driving the vehicle, because like you're driving and then you're the passenger, so it's not like you're even driving the whole time,
right?
And so you definitely have to take it all with a grain of salt, and I feel like the at-home tests are a much more accurate depiction of what the vehicle is actually going to be like in your life. The first drive is just really first impressions. And I think both of us came away from it feeling very good about the first impressions.
And there are times you go to a first drive event and you leave and you hate the vehicle, or you don't have a good taste for it. But in this case, the Tacoma was so brand new. We were checking out so many different things inside the truck. It's like, I've gotten questions on the Facebook pages and stuff like, can I fit 35s without rubbing? Well, A, 35 is a mid-sized truck to me is a little clownish, but B, how are we supposed to know that? Like, you don't get the chance to even to do that. You're so overwhelmed by all the senses, what's going on. But one thing I will say that I did have a good impression on, and it comes from Sean DeLong. He wants to know, hey, Tim and Jill, good evening. Really curious if this new powertrain is much better than the B6. For me, without a doubt.
Yeah, I would agree.
It's not even close. And I made a joke in my article about it today about how, it's a four banger. It's a four banger. Oh my gosh, four banger. Guys, this is not 1993.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I hear it all the time, and it's like, this is ridiculous, guys. This is a turbocharged engine. And the thing is, the torque curve is at 1,700 to 6, depending on what you're driving, 1,600, 1,700 RPMs. That's ridiculously fast. This thing, if you had the prior generation and you drove these back to back, the new one would feel like a rocket ship versus the old one. It just would.
Yeah,
and
this has like 52 more pound-feet of torque. I feel like it has a nice, good bit of little torque more.
Right, and keep in mind, this is not the hybrid either. The hybrid even has double the amount of torque the V6 has. So the hybrid drive happens later on. Yeah, more. Yeah, so I mean, and the other thing too is you have an 8-speed automatic transmission versus the 6-speed. And people in the Facebook comments were like, "So did they fix that transmission?" I'm like, "Yep, they got rid of it. It's gone." Like there's the people. I just thought the comments today were funny. They're like, "Did they fix that?" I'm like, yeah, it doesn't exist." So yeah, so I mean, the improvement from the transmission, you have more gearing. And talking to Sheldon about it, he goes, that 6-speed automatic was a good transmission, but when you start adding more horsepower and torque to the engine, you don't have enough gap in the gear ratios. You need another couple gears. You gotta really have more play there. You gotta reduce more things with it. So yeah, it's ridiculously impressive as far as improvements. And I don't always feel that way. There's been some drives that I don't like the engine. I like the prior generation better, but in this case, it's hands down. It's not even a question how much improved it is. Let's see. JMB says, "Love your channel, Tim. Any idea why Toyota has such a limited inventory allocated for Canada with nowhere near the options available with purchase compared to American dealers?" That's the way Canada is. Canada does not get the same options U.S. dealers get. They do not get the same inventory U.S. dealers get. And I was talking to the Elmers and the Truck King. They're the Canadian truck channel. And Elmers has a great story. He was in Germany talking to Mercedes-Benz, and he says, "Why don't you guys bring a manual over here with a diesel in Canada? We'd buy it like crazy. What's going wrong with that?" And the head of marketing kind of looked at him, and he looked back, and he says, "There are more cars sold in Berlin than the entire country of Canada. Like, you guys are a really small market. Like, it's just you're not going to get the same kind of allocation that we're going to get." And what's weird is there is times like Nissan Frontier comes to mind. There's like one trim in a Nissan Frontier that Canada gets that we don't get. But all other cases, it's just Canada. Canada doesn't have the same buying power as far as consumers in that region to get the same options. All right. So, yep. Did Toyota give you any information on the hybrid other than availability coming April to May-ish?
I think they gave us horsepower and torque. That was
I
it.
think that was it.
We don't
Yeah,
have any fuel economy. We don't have any specs. No.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing I'd point out too with the first drive event. People asked me about what the fuel economy was like. I'm not going to. I didn't even look. I don't even care because here we're we're trying to test with the powertrain. We're pushing the truck to the limits. We're trying to not to the limits. We're trying to, and we're driving aggressively and roads we're not used to, and we're only driving for a couple hours. It doesn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say we're driving aggressively. I would say like we took each vehicle out for like 20 minutes, maybe a half an hour. And half an hour is not enough time to get a really accurate gauge of what the fuel economy is. You're right. I didn't look either.
Yeah, I would say this. I would caution anybody reading into first drive events doing fuel economy. I would ignore those numbers. I would just ignore those numbers. Oh yes. Does the manual transmission have a rev matching feature? It does. And it also has. You experienced this. I did not experience this. I think Sheldon was asking about this, about the anti-stall technology. This got some acronym.
Yeah. So Toyota uses what they call an intelligent manual transmission, and when you like press the button, it gives you rev matching, and it has, as Tim was saying, anti-stall technology. And I mean, I don't think that means you can't stall it. It just means that it's a little bit more difficult to stall. I didn't try to stall the truck while I was driving. I'll be honest. I didn't stall the truck while I was driving. So, but yeah, I want to say, and I mean, I could be really wrong here, but I want to say it's the same manual transmission you see in the Toyota Corolla. Just, okay. I mean, geared differently, or not like gear ratios and stuff like that. I mean, it's tuned differently for a truck versus, a Corolla, but it's the same kind of manual transmission with the intelligent manual that you see in the Corolla hatchback.
Sean's calling up. Will people miss the V6?
Well, they'll miss the V6 because V6. But will they miss the V6? If you put somebody in this vehicle and didn't tell them it did not have a V6, I don't think they would know it.
No, and I would also speak to the fact that it came up today in some of the Facebook comments about reliability. Jill and I made the comment, and it's been in different articles, about 54% of the engine is new for the Tacoma. So it's not really a carryover engine that per se. Yeah, there you go.
I'm having that problems today. Sorry.
You're having that problem. Well, you had it right. Just stop adjusting it.
Okay, I'm stopping.
No, the reliability issues. And that was interesting because I don't know why people forget this, but that the 5.7 V8, the tried and true 5.7 V8 or Rethox long reliability bout or longevity bout, it had lots of problems. It had tons of problems. I actually pulled up the story from tundraheadquarters.com, which I used to write for. In 2010, I did a write-up on all the known problems with the 2008 Tundra when it first came out, and of the problems of the 5.7 liter V8. And so Toyota and as a whole has less problems than other manufacturers when new engines come out. But the other thing you remember too is that vehicles. I was thinking about this too, Jill. I don't know if you know this story. If you thought this when you were growing up, but when I was growing up, if you bought a car with 100,000 miles on it, it was like, whoa, 100,000 miles. That was like the line. It was like, oh, I don't know how reliable that car's going to be at this point. You have to replace the alternator. You have to replace the starter. You have to replace the batteries. You have to replace the cables. I mean, 100,000 miles was a huge line in the sand for me growing up. And especially in Michigan too, with the rust and things. I mean, you're just like, frame's going to be rusted out. This is going to be done, whatever. And now we get questions like, I don't believe this vehicle is going to last 200,000 miles. It's not going to be that reliable. 200,000 miles. If you drive 12,000 miles a year, that's going on 15, 20 years. And I made the comment that the frame now is fully boxed. So that means like, well, fully boxed frame, you get salt in there, you can't get the salt out. There's drain points in the frame. It's meant to drain. It's meant to get the salt out of there. The old C channel frame would get rusted too. Like, I find this whole conversation pretty interesting, and it's fun. People are like, I got to wait a couple years and make sure it's reliable. Well, I mean, in 2019, Toyota removed the transmission cooler, freaked a lot of people out. Not even mid-cycle, just on a whim in the middle of the vehicle lifetime of the Tundra. I mean, vehicles change constantly. I think that's the thing people don't understand is vehicles are constantly under improvement. They constantly change. All right. NL Ken wants to know, will a sheet of plywood fit flat in the bed now? This reminded me of the video that we did with the extra cab where you laid down in the bed. So Jill, how wide are your arms?
I mean, they're probably about 5 feet, right? Because I think your arms are supposed to be as wide as you are tall.
Well, so I mean, the plywood's 4 feet, so it's 4 by 8. So we know that in the 6 foot bed, I mean, obviously you have the tailgate down, which is not a big deal, folks. Oh, I hear it all the time. Oh, you can't carry drywall in the 5 foot bed. Yeah, I carry it all the time. It's not a big deal. But I was just thinking about this because you were laying down in the back of the extra cab, and we did the length, we didn't do the width.
No.
And sorry, I don't carry a tape measure with me when I go to media events, typically.
What?
I know.
Who are you? You failed. You failed.
Right? Take my man card. I don't know that I'm able to answer that, but we did. So there is a video of Jill laying down in the back that give you some visual reference, as long as you decide how wide Jill is. Wait. By the way, somebody said that they are out there banging the drums to go ahead and make Jill a recognized unit of measurement.
I'm like, I can't see myself in this because of the.
Okay, so
I'm directly challenged.
Jill is currently measuring herself. I will.
You should totally watch the video about I'm directionally challenged. My Spanish versus English with right and left. Yeah, I'm about 17 inches wide, and I'm sorry, my husband is calling me right now. If you hear that in the background, I declined. Okay. But yeah, so I'm about 17 inches wide, right?
From your arm extended, what are we doing here?
No, I mean, like, because if I didn't extend my arms,
so your torso, your torso is 17 inches wide. Right. Yeah, so you're 17. So that's about let's see, 2 by 4 is 40. So 4 feet 48 inches. So we'd need to have 3 Jills.
I can roll over. I'm sure it's wide enough. Oh, and now my husband just sent me a text message. Sorry, I forgot you have your podcast. So let's add insult to injury. Let's call me and then text me. Ding, ding, ding. Yeah, hi.
Okay. So I can't sure to answer that one. James Houston wants to know, how is the rear legroom? Something to be better legroom, since I think the major reason people buy full size trucks. Yes. And the fact is, it's not better. And the fact is, they can't make it better. And they can't. And the reason, and I've done videos on this, it's 212 inches long, which is a little bit over 17.5 feet, which the number one buying reasons, I think the number 2 buying reasons full size or mid size trucks is fitting in the garage. If they make the rear legroom a little bit bigger, they make the bed a little bit longer, it won't fit in the garage. So they won't do it. The Chevy Colorado same way. Yeah, GMC Canyon same way. So Jill had the Chevy Colorado ZR2. She parked in the garage, right? And you're in Chicago, and I've been outside your old place where if you leave something in the bed, it gets stolen.
Yeah.
So you have to either get a secure topper or somehow, which they're going to break into anyways, or you got to find a way to park in your garage. And I know several people that live in the Northeast or in the Midwest, like me, hail. They're so fearful of losing their truck and spending money on claims for hail damage. So they have to park in the garage. It's just, that's going to be. Let's see, I answered that one. This is interesting. So 30-6 says, 30-6. That's a great one. Even if fuel economy is the same or 1 mile per gallon better, the tank lost 3 gallons. It's now 18 instead of 21. I guess I didn't catch that. Interesting point on the tank size. Yeah, I mean, fuel economy is, I think, at least 3 to 4 mile per gallon better, or actually 2 mile per gallon better. So yeah, it's going to be a kind of a trade-off there. And it probably comes down to space and weight as far as as you add more fuel, you reduce the total payload, and you have this game getting played back and forth. I will check on that. What models do not offer the manual transmission? The pre-runner.
I don't think the Limited, the TRD Pro. I feel like it's just the base SR5 and the TRD Sport. I know the TRD Sport has it.
Yeah, I bet you it's in this. So, Jill, why don't you move along, and I will. I'll look this up in the spec sheet because it's in here
Move
somewhere.
along. Move
Well,
along. Where
find
am
it.
I moving along?
I don't know. Talk to the camera. Find another comment. I don't know.
Okay. I'm like, move along. What does that mean? You were at the bottom with the pricing where it showed like what the models were with the manual transmission. You were like literally
But
right on it when we started
no,
talking.
that was just. Oh, there it is. Oh, you're right. Yeah. So, but
I
double
edited your
cab.
article. I know these things.
Well, it doesn't show the SR extra cab.
So you have the SR double cab with the
Manual,
6-speed manual.
and then Sport 6
Sport.
manual, Off Road 6 manual. Huh. So
Yeah,
not the
so I mean
SR.
the upper trims don't.
Yeah, I knew the extra cab did not have a manual transmission. So really, it's just Sport and Off Road.
And does the SR5 have it at all? I see I saw the SR had one.
No, yeah, SR, and then I don't see an SR5.
Okay, so the SR, then the TRD Sport, and the TRD Off Road.
Yeah, but it's got to be up here somewhere, I think. I want to look at fuel tank too. Let's see. So let me fuel.
See, this is why it's too much.
Fuel
tank protection.
Protection. Yeah, interesting. I must be typing it wrong. Let's see. I want to look at. Okay, fuel capacity, 18.2. No, 18.2. Interesting catch.
Well, and I will say, you are working on a spec comparison between 2023 and 2024. And what I'm going to say is maybe we should pare that down a little bit and not show everything. Pick out the most salient things.
Yeah, well, this is interesting too. So 4x4 manual transmission, not applicable in SR5, not applicable in TRD pre-runner, and not applicable in limited. So you're right. The manual transmission, if I go up a little bit more, it shows the horsepower and torque. But yeah, cab models. Okay, so yeah, it's only that's interesting. That again, this is stuff that we learn as you guys ask questions. That only the double cab sport and double cab off road have manual transmissions.
And the SR.
And the SR. Yep.
Yeah, but only double cab. So not any of the what do they call it? I want to say extended cab.
All the extra cabs.
Yeah.
You can't get a manual extra cab. Yeah. Dust Daddy wants to know, and Dust Daddy had a great comment today about there's a gentleman who's convinced that the battle between Tacoma coming out and Tesla coming out is going to be great for everybody. And I'm like, well, the Cybertruck's a full size, Tacoma's a mid size. And Dust Daddy said something to the point where at this point, the next generation Tacoma will be out before the Cybertruck comes out.
You know what? The Cybertruck is supposed to have its deliveries starting tomorrow.
Do you know, Jill, this is something I may send you an errand tomorrow if you have time. There is a Cybertruck in Chicago.
Okay.
There's at a dealership there. Our friend, I'll text you his name in public, but he did video of it, and it's at a dealership there in Chicago. All right. Okay. Dust Daddy wants to know, for all the people abandoning GM, does it have a physical light switch? It does. The Tacoma had. I thought it was over in the cluster on the left-hand side where it has been historically, because it doesn't have the button for the light switch. So I'm going to say yes. But Jill's giving me the inquisitive look, so she's going to.
No, I was just like, I wonder if I have a photo for that.
Right. That's why I'm thinking about. Look at your photos. I'll move on. I will move on because I know how to do this. Brian Shirley says, how was the entry exit? Oh my goodness, it was so much better. So much better getting in and out of that truck. I didn't do the duck and dive, and the video that we shot, I talked to the guy, one of the Toyota engineers there, and he was talking about how his Hilux, or not Hilux, but his 4Runner has the same issue with the Tacoma. He's duck and dive. Taller gentleman, he's like 5'10". Yeah, it's so much better, and the seating position is so much better. I've been asked that several times today. Seating position, just forget about seating position. It's been fixed. They ripped that cab apart. They redesigned the entire cab and made it fixed. And some guy want to know if the whistling's gone because it's 2014 and 19 had whistling in the cabin. It's a whole new cabin. there's a lot of times you do refreshed or redone whatever, and the cabinet stays the same or something like that. This is completely new. And so Shriek Handful says new Toyotas are packed with electronics and complex motors. No more legendary reliability. I don't agree with that. If you look at the reports, new vehicle reliability has never been better. And the problem we're having a problem with electronics here and there. It's your phone's not connecting. And the problem is that if you do have to fix your truck, it's really expensive to fix it. But I've done many stories on the prior generation Tacomas, prior generation Tundras had lots of problems. And it was interesting to me that people don't do that. Let's see.
And I am going to say, I don't know if you can see it, but lights are on the wand.
Yeah, yep.
So, confirmation, they are not hidden in an infotainment screen.
So, Pizadak, if the non-hybrid has enough power, I'm wondering if the hybrid would be worth it for someone who wouldn't be towing anything. Somebody brought this up too. Somebody put something in the comments. Why doesn't Toyota battle the Crown for the best rating for the midsize truck towing? And I'm like, why? What are you talking about? Nobody, not nobody, but midsize truck towing is like number 37th on the list of buying reasons. Like people don't buy midsize trucks to tow. They don't. And so the hybrid should be better offline. Should have more power. Should be feeling a little faster. And I'm excited to see what they do with fuel economy because, again, nobody tows with midsize trucks. It's not a big buying reason. So in this case, I'm really hoping, hoping that they build it more for fuel economy. Because Toyota can build a really good hybrid fuel economy. They really can.
They're not going to build it for fuel economy. Because if you look at the power ratings on the hybrid, I mean, they're crazy.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, it's
maybe they're not.
So I mean that's it. They're definitely not.
I'm hoping that it gets that. I'm hoping it gets better. I'm hoping it makes it worthwhile to do one that gets better because in the Tundra, I don't feel like it's better. I don't feel like the hybrid is worth it.
No, it's definitely does not get better fuel economy. The hybrid delivers 326 horsepower and 465 pound-feet of torque.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful. I mean, I can be hopeful.
You can be hopeful. I do not want to dash your dreams today.
All right, Debbie Downer. George wants to know, how does the air conditioning system work? Better question. How's heat work?
Yeah, and the heated seats are really good. I was a particular fan of the heated cloth seats. I'm just going to put that out there.
George, we were blasting the heat. It was pouring down rain. It was cold. Yeah, it was like we did not have a chance to turn on the air conditioning because it was freaking cold.
And if he's saying that, I'm going to point to the right direction. If he's saying that, that's totally true. If I'm saying that, you can, like, I've got my space heater on in the background here. Don't trust me if I say it's cold.
Have the Toyota engineers ever explained the ridiculous volume adjustment for third gen? No, because they're not going to talk about third gen anymore. Like these engineers, as soon as that truck gets released, like third gen, they already moved on. Like they don't.
It's not even the same engineers.
Yeah, it's not even the same engineers. Those engineers retired. They're not even listed program anymore. They're gone. I mean, yeah. So 30.6 the numbers are identical to the spec sheet Toyota gave out today. So the Hilux trans awfully similar. It probably is a global transmission. I don't imagine Toyota builds that many different 8-speed transmissions, and globally, why not build the same transmission? You find that throughout the automotive marketplace, they're building the same engine transmissions using global vehicles around the world. So it probably has some similar specs, similar mechanicals. I mean, it's not like Toyota has this entire teams of transmission engineers. They have a group and powertrain teams, and they share details. There's conference calls between global members all the time, sharing details and sharing information. That's why they're global. Gladiator has more legroom than the Wrangler. There's a post on the website where I did all the legroom, rear legroom, if you guys are curious. The Gladiator is one of the longest mid-sized trucks out there. It will not fit in the garage. And that's
I haven't had it as a test. I haven't been able to do the test.
Right. Well, and actually one of the the cons to the Gladiator is its length, because it's too long for some of these trails. It bottoms out too much, and it doesn't fit in garages. And yeah, per the Canadian channel Throttle House, when in idle, if you put a mic in the engine while driving, it sounds more like a diesel. Did you guys notice that? No, I thought it was pretty quiet. I have a diesel at home. I didn't. Engine sound. It's funny because Dave over at All Train Nation made a comment that it's a four banger. The engine sounds terrible. I don't know what people expect. Like, this is the idea the engines would sound good is gone. When V8s die, there's no replacement for displacement as far as sound goes. So it's not going to sound amazing. And no, I'm sorry, there's nothing that engineers can do to make it better. They can't do it. Not going to happen. Bud Guy wants to know, how much narrower is Taco from your Silverado? Goodness, that's a good question. I'll look it up in a minute. I would say it's a good foot and a half. I mean, it's maybe more than that. It's quite a bit smaller. I mean, I think it's funny is my 1962 C10 is a full size truck. My 62 is smaller than the new mid-size trucks.
Yeah.
So just put that in perspective. Yeah. Like, you know, I mean, yeah. And so, yeah, if you're looking for that old farmer's truck that fits everywhere and you park in the garage, park in the shed, all that kind of stuff, you need a mid-size truck, or even further down, Maverick or something like that. Something else. Do these newer multi-management efficient Tacomas lose access to multi-turn select? If I remember looking in the cabin, they lose a lot of access to a lot of things, because you can't use those systems without the transmission. Crawl control, multi-train select. I mean, you don't lose. You don't have access to those things.
You are the multi-train select. You are the crawl control.
Will the new 4Runner be just like new Taco, the roof over the entire car? Probably. I mean, they should share things. I mean, it's all the same TGNAF platform. It's going to have a lot of similarities. I bet you the interior will look the exact same as Tacoma, as for little changes here and there. The powertrain will probably be the same. Yeah. Another person is so George is asking again, how does AC work? I live in Phoenix, damn it. George, I hear you, but man, we just don't. Yeah. He says, you skipped my common identical numbers. That is diesel Hilux transmission. Oh, I did talk about it. How easy is to remove that dumb air dam? Actually, funny story on that air dam is in the TRD off-road edition, they were able to get rid of it. He said that they had gotten better numbers than they thought when they're doing the further testing, and they didn't need it in the off-road version. I think they get enough flack about it that the first people that wanted it, the people inside Toyota that wanted it, pushing engineers to have it, finally gave up because they heard all the stuff online. That's my thought. But yeah, it's 9 bolts, 11 bolts if it comes with it. It's pretty ridiculous to take off. Pretty easy. Nothing bad. Let's see.
I was going to say, 30-aught stick actually just answered the question, and essentially
I forget. I asked Sheldon what it was, because I want to get the TRD off road, like I've talked about in this live stream, and I was going to take it off first thing myself too. And he said it was really easy. Like he even pointed out that the screws were done in such a way to give him easy access. That's the idea. All right, for fuel economy, it is said the Land Cruiser will get about 27 miles per gallon, which is impressive. Grant's SUV, my guess is the Taco Hybrid, while for power, will get better fuel economy. I mean, I don't think we're gonna. I wrote an article saying 32, which I think was kind of far-reaching, but I would say, I think 26, 27 in that range as far as highway only, not combined, would be pretty impressive. And the thing that I think that doesn't get talked about enough is yes, you could buy a full-size truck for the same money as a Tacoma, but you can't. The thing is, you can't get all the features in that Tacoma you can in the full-size truck for that price point, A. And B, people don't cross-shop mid-size trucks, full-size trucks. They want to cross-shop down. They want to move up or move down. But it's not a big thing. People buy mid-size trucks because, again, as you've seen from the comments, will fit my garage. I can park it easier. I can use it better. I mean, that's usability is a big deal. Can you order a TRD Pro with a base hood? No, you can't order a Toyota vehicle regardless. New Tacoma, LL Ken points out new Tacoma wheelbase is wider and longer. Correct. The wheelbase is 4.5 inches moved back. I forgot that I read a story by my friend Joel Fetter about that. And yes, they moved the wheelbase. The wheelbase is back, but the overall length is the same, and the wheelbase is wider, and it's about 4 inches wider and about 2 or 3 inches taller. Again, I'm working on this. Here's the deal: the comparison spec sheet is massive, and I was working with the IT team to see if it fit, and it may not fit, and so I haven't. And as Jill says, we can jettison some stuff on that sheet, but I don't know if we can make it fit on the website with the width requirements of our template. I'm not quite sure. All right. If a dual exhaust V8 can have a low rumble exhaust note, why can't a single exhaust four-cylinder have one? It's not enough displacement. It just can't happen. I've been to Corsa. I went to Corsa Exhaust when the new F-150 EcoBoost came out, the V6, and I talked to them about that stuff, and they're like, "There's nothing we can do." Bora, that makes exhaust for Corvettes and things, was like, "We can't do anything. There's just not enough. There's not enough exhaust coming out. There's just not enough exhaust air coming out to make it work." All right, let's see. Sure Canful, Tacomas are the same size or larger than early Tundras. Yes, somebody made the comment that the Tacoma is the same size as the first gen Tundra, with the one that came out in like 2000, 99, 2000. And you're
that
probably
would
right.
be an interesting spec comparison.
Yeah,
maybe you add that into the list.
Right, and then somebody else. So that was like, so you mean the 7/8 full size truck? Because that, if you remember, that first Tundra was not meant to be a full size truck. People call it full size truck. It wasn't meant to be a full size truck. It was meant to be an in betweener truck between midsize and full size. And then 20 years later, here we go. That Tundra is the same size as midsize because midsize has grown so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. So 30 sick. If it's across the board of a midsize, not meant for towing, but if it comes with a 7-pin, why no integrated trailer brake controller? Also, electric parking brake. Had to use handbrake a lot on mine. There is integrated trailer brake controller. It has one.
Yeah, and they have some really cool new technology for trailering as well.
Right. Yeah. It's
hands-free backup, and I can't remember what they call it, but it's like backup assist or something like that. So
yeah, it's got the same backup assist like you did like launching a boat. Think of like you're taking a small boat fishing and you launch the boat. That's got the same technology for that. Electronic parking brake, I had to bring up quite a bit. I think it's great. Somebody said to me, they're like, "Why do you have that? Why do you have a button?" I went full like manual thing. Well, electronic parking brake, they turn that on more often. They use it more often. They engage the electronic parking brake more often. You get in the vehicle and turn it on. A lot of times the parking brake is on or it turns off and you put it in drive. And what's great about that, and I guess I'm wrong on this as far as my thinking, but I don't think I am, because my brother had his parking brake seize on his truck, and it took us like a good 3 hours to get the brake undone to let the truck drive off, because people don't use the handbrake as much as they used to, like you do with a GTI, right? So you have so you always set parking brake, the handbrake, right? But if you're not in your GTI and you have a manual handbrake and press loan, you're probably not setting it, and so that handbrake goes through how many Chicago winters and sits there and gets rust on it and gets not used, and then all of a sudden you have to use it and it locks up. Like, I think electronic parking brake is a brilliant solution, and I thought it was fantastic. And you can also use it for different situations. Like you can carry on. And I would imagine that the hill thing you talked about with the manual transmission, and imagine it uses part of the electronic parking brake in conjunction with that system to make sure you're not sliding backwards when you shift into gear with the manual.
Yeah. So what it was, all MX5 DP said should have hill hold assist to help with hill starts. I feel like most manual transmissions have that these days. I don't know that I've been in a manual transmissioned vehicle recently that hasn't had it. And usually you just have to push the brake a little bit harder before you take your foot off of the brake and go to the gas. And that's kind of what sets the hill hold assist.
Yeah, and I imagine, like I said, that's in conjunction.
I mean, we didn't test it in the Tacoma, but.
Right. Yeah, I think hand brakes are really good. Frank Keel, oil changes when? We don't have a manual yet, so we don't know. There's no maintenance schedule yet. It hasn't been released. What about the the T100, which you talked about earlier, in comparison to Tundra, Tacoma, and T100? I would say the T100 same size as Tacoma, and the Tundra is like a size and a half bigger than a T100. And then performance-wise, I mean, I don't know. People get mad at me while saying this, but I think it's night and day difference between the old Tacoma and the new Tacoma. I think it'd be even much different, much more of a blown away with the old T100 versus Tacoma. I don't know. I'm not a big drag racing truck guy because I just think it's ridiculous. But if you were to drag race the T100 versus the Tacoma, it wouldn't be close. It would just smoke. It would just smoke it. Another handbrake. Yeah. So does it turn on in winter? Nothing worse than a frozen e-brake when in a hurry. It turns on all the time. It's you want to. The thing with mechanical machines and engines is you never want to park it. You want to use it. The more you use it, the more things stay lubed, the more things work. People.
Yeah.
I talk all the time. You see it throughout different service manuals too. You'll see, hey, go out there and turn on, put your truck in 4 low. Go use crawl control. Why? Because if you don't use those systems, they tend to freeze up over time. So you should, like once a year or once every year and a half, you should be putting your vehicle in 4 low. You should be using 4 high. You should be using those features because if you don't, like I said, you don't.
Yeah. And with the e-brake too, I've noticed in a lot of newer vehicles, it automatically sets when you put the vehicle in park.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that at all?
Yep. Yeah. And I don't, because a lot of times if you put it in gear, it says electronic parking brake released. And I think that's fantastic. I think it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fubar Medic talks about the rear seat legroom. Like talked about, it's length. You cannot do it. You lose most of your customers if you make it longer as far as the vehicle and add more legroom. Manual.
All right, Just Daddy.
So what read this comment to those listening to the podcast?
He's saying a manual hill hold, then you need more skill, or just drive an automatic.
Right. Chris Callahan wants to follow up. He says when the e-brake, he's talking about when the e-brake freezes from cold weather, not mechanical binding. Guys, Toyota and every manufacturer out there has buried these things in ice baths and negative 40-degree temperatures and put in e-brakes, put in 4-wheel, they put all this stuff through. I mean, they don't. Somebody said to me the other day, they're like, well, how many miles did the Tacoma test this new engine? Like 7 million, like GMC did. That's 7 million is just a big number GMC put out. Every manufacturer does this. They drive the truck around no oil in it. They drive around no transmission fluid in it. They're engineers at proving grounds whose entire job is to overload the truck to max tow with no oil in the engine and try to break it.
I'm like, I want that job. I want to break the truck.
They want to do it all the time. I remember being with the prior generation Tacoma on a lava rock side hill going down with crawl control. I said to the engineers, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's crazy. I can't believe that you guys let us do that. The truck was like, at a 30-degree incline. He goes, you think that's crazy? Come to our proving grounds. We flip these things all the time. We actively try to, they actively try to break the truck all the time. And so, yeah, they're doing that. So here, if the electronic handbrake froze on his wife's RAV4, which is Allocation says in Canada, then that's good. Report that because they will go back. They will figure out what's wrong with it and they'll prove it. One thing that, as a friend, my uncle said to me, he says, he has a Toyota Sienna. He loves it. But he says, Toyota is the last to come to the marketplace innovation, but when they come out, they do the best job. And if you report an issue like that to the dealer, they will either come out and investigate it or they'll get reports. They'll make it better. So, yeah, that's what you need to do, that stuff. Okay. Let's see. So Fubar says makes sense. Didn't think of it that way. Other trucks are already longer. No, they're not. No, I did a study on this. I did a post on this. Canyon, Colorado, Ranger, Frontier, Honda, Tacoma are all about the same length. The only truck that's longer is Jeep Gladiator. Let's see. They should probably shorten the bed, but people complain the 5-foot beds and midsize are already too short already. Yeah. So I mean that's the thing I talk about. Like if you shorten the bed a little bit, give more leg room, you give people about the bed. If you lengthen the bed by a little bit, and then you got to take some space elsewhere. So you're playing this game of space, and you can't. Yeah. You're limited. 212 inches in a full size truck. You go as long as you want. Heavy duty. You make the thing as long as a train. It doesn't matter. That's why there's a double. That's why in crew cab, heavy duty trucks, there's crew cab 8-foot bed because the expectation is it's not going to fit in the garage anyways. Who cares? And they want it for work truck anyways. So they want to be able to haul all sorts of stuff in the bed. So that's difference. Midsize is a whole different kind of animal. Yeah. So electric e-brake's been along for a long time. Hasn't been an issue. It's interesting that came up. I was thinking what else came up today in the comments. I've been reading a lot of them today, which is probably why I need to have a lot more drink going on.
So Fubar Medic asks, Taco or New Ranger, which do you think looks better? So first off, full disclosure, I haven't seen the New Ranger in person. And I think it's really hard to judge how something looks from photos. But I mean, I think the new Tacoma looks amazing. I think they did a great job with it. And what I really like is the interior upgrades on the Tacoma. You know, in the previous generation, I mentioned a lot of times the interior looked kind of cheap, and I got backlash from, you know, the Taco-rati, you know, the people who love the tacos, and it's supposed to look like this. You go buy a Lexus if you want something luxurious. That's not what I'm saying, but you know, I think they did a really good job because each interior for each trim has different finishing touches and different kind of design elements throughout it. And so like, even like the base version is definitely not going to look like the top end limited, and the materials inside, you know, are not going to be the same. But I think they did a really good job differentiating the trims and making the interiors look really nice. I don't think it looks cheap and plastic anymore, even when it's kind of cheap and plastic. So I'm voting for the Tacoma.
Yeah, I've seen the Ranger in person, and I've driven the Tacoma, and I agree with Jill completely. The Ranger, I don't want to say it looks warmed over, but it's not as specific as the Tacoma design is. Tacoma really, the trim level is really different. Everything's a little different. The Ranger, you know, you get a little more chrome here, a little better material here. That's about it. But you look at Trail Hunter, TRD Pro, look at the Limited, look at the SR5. They are a lot different. They are completely different. What's going on? Dust Daddy says, watching your video, I still don't get why camera's disabled at speed. Toyota is too conservative on that one. Do you remember you were sitting in the back when I was talking about this? So it's been a topic in my head for a little bit, and I've been asking different people about this because I think it's really interesting. So I was in Michigan in May, June, whatever that was, doing the F-150 or Super Duty drive, and the camera stayed on. And I was like, holy cow, guys, the camera stayed on. And they're like, yeah, we talked to NHTSA, and they said, hey, you know, its argument is that it's more safe to have mom when you're towing and things than you have to constantly press button turn it off, which makes sense, right? And so then I reached out to GM, and GM was like, yeah, ours do the same thing. I reached out to Ram. Ram was like, we'll get back to you. Ram never got back to me. They never got back to me. And so in the Tacoma, I was talking about it like a safety thing, and I was like, that's ridiculous. And so I think I think I surprised them on that one, because I don't think they thought of that before, because I don't think they saw that before. I think the guy probably went back, and Toyota watches all our videos, and they watch all the comments and things, but I think they were really surprised when I brought that up, that if other brands are able to do it, and again, it's a quick software thing, right? It's leave it on at 25 miles, because I think
250 miles an hour, yeah.
Well, like you said with Rebel Rally in your section of the video, you're like, hey, if I'm off-roading, I want the camera on at all times. In that, when you're Rebel Rallying, you and your drive partner Kristen, you're not listening to tunes, you're not jamming out to the map, you can't use any of that stuff. You're focused on the road.
No, you're focused on the road. And I mean, like, there were a couple use cases that I would have liked the camera to be on, going a little bit faster. So, you deer hunt, which means you're out at dawn and dusk, and, the sun is setting, the sun is rising, and the fog happens, the mist coming up off of the grass and dew and stuff happens, which hinders your visibility out the windshield. But if you have the cameras on, and like, there were points during the Rebel Rally where we were just like, we can't see. And I was like, oh, wait, we have a front camera, because we just couldn't see the road in front of us. Right. And so it wasn't like we were driving 50 miles an hour, with the camera on and only looking at the camera. But, we were going faster than 5 miles an hour, and we wouldn't have been able to move forward at all if the camera hadn't been on. So, and I know when I had the ZR2, I was surprised that the camera stayed on. at speed, and I was pleased. I was very pleased by it because in Chicago there's bike lanes everywhere, and the ZR2 Colorado is a little bit wider than a normal mid-sized truck, and I was really afraid of taking out bikers in unprotected bike lanes, and so like I would turn the camera on when I would see a biker in front of me. And I'd be like, okay, making sure that I'm over far enough, but not over too far so that I'm going to, play chicken with the oncoming traffic. So I think it's a safety issue to not keep it on, frankly.
Yeah, I think they're a little bit surprised by that. I want to end on a couple things because I need to end and your dinner's probably up ready. Eric Kizzo points out that the pricing has gotten pretty ridiculous. Well, in Thunder territory. Again, I've talked to customers not the last 7-8 years. Nobody in mid-sized trucks, people are getting pissed off. They can't spend more money. It sounds ridiculous, but they want all the features they want in a full-size truck. They're tired of having to say, why do I have to get...
also have it on the base end, too? Because, like, what is it, $3,000 increase base to base was a little bit much.
Right, it was. But it's still like, I remember a guy bought the GMC Canyon Denali when it first came out, and I thought it was kind of ridiculous. And I asked him, he goes, I don't want a full-size truck. I can't park a full-size truck. I can't get down the trails in Pennsylvania and go turkey hunting with a full-size truck. But I'm pissed off. I can't get all the features that the Sierra Denali gets in the 1500 in the Canyon. And there's because he's like, I'm gonna buy one new truck. I'm a retired Marine. This is the last time I'm gonna buy a truck. Yeah. Jill, I don't know. I didn't play with this a little bit at all, and I know you were talking a little bit more about it than I was. So there's a JBL premium system, and you don't turn on the radio in these press drives because you're too busy doing cameras and you can't listen to music. But there is a removable speaker, which I'm getting on the truck I'm buying, which I'm really curious whether I'm going to use it. Yeah, so it sits in the dash, and and a fun fact, and we just learned this, we're sitting there at lunch, is that is the first case of a solid-state battery, is what they kind of said. Like, it's a Toyota solid-state battery, and I don't know the details. We haven't done a story because we're still waiting for details back, trying to figure out who made the battery, and PR was kind of flipping out over this. But I don't know. Removable speaker, where are you at with this?
You know what? I mean, I think it's an interesting idea if you are camping, and it has Bluetooth connectivity. So I'll tell you, something like that would be super helpful for Rebel, because they ditch your phone and they ditch your radio because you have to cut all that stuff off. And if you have an MP3 player that has Bluetooth connectivity, you could connect to the speaker and be able to play your music. Because occasionally you have long road transports. And you do want to listen to music. At least my partner did. I'm all about driving in silence. I drive my husband nuts. We'll get about like 15 minutes into the drive, and he's like, "Music? Anything? No?" And I'm like, "Oh, you actually like to listen to music." So I think it's a neat idea because in addition, because the Bluetooth connectivity, it's also waterproof. And so you could like take it out camping, and if it rains, like it's not going to destroy it. And then maybe dry it off before you put it back in the truck. But I think it's a cool idea. Yeah, I'm just going to short out everything. So I think it's a neat idea. I will be very curious to see if people use it.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, those are our thoughts and answering your questions. Hopefully, answered all your questions. If you have more, leave them down below. We will try to get those answered as we have time and we have sleep. I woke up at 5 this morning to do the premiere, and I should have just let it be a regular video because nobody had any questions for me. I don't know. I had a brain fart there, so I'm gonna go to bed early tonight.
You were just way too anxious.
I know. I really fired up because I was really excited when it came back from this first drive, and had a good feeling in my stomach about this first vehicle. And I can't say I felt the same all the other events I went to this year. But this one, I really was like, wow, from the moment I saw this truck, the moment I read a press release about 3 or 4 different times, talked to Sheldon, I saw it in Hawaii. We saw it in Hawaii together. We drove it. I feel like this is a grand slam. And so the title of my review was Grand Slam, because I don't love the manual seats. I don't have vehicles with many manual seats. It's my thing. It's totally my thing. But I am struggling to find anything I don't like with this truck. I'm struggling.
And I will say the vehicle that we drove back to the hotel from the hub was a TRD Sport. It had the manual transmission, but it had power seats, leather seats, heated seats. The bigger infotainment screen. It had like the TRD sport premium package or whatever, but
Right, yeah.
it had literally everything I would want on it, including a manual transmission. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I just love that the Tacoma gives you options. And I think that there are a lot of mid-sized trucks that are like, we're giving you one engine, we're giving you one cabin, we're giving you one bed size. Have fun with that. And if you don't, if you want to just go with sheep, you can totally do that. But if you want to build your own truck and do your own thing, like, I love that Tacoma is giving you that option.
Yeah, I agree. All right, again, we have 2 reviews, we have 2 videos. I have 2 stories, 2 videos on this as well. I am planning on doing a kind of a buyer's guide, I guess is the way to say it, on all 7 midsize trucks this year and talking about the different changes which I go with, kind of give more perspective. Look for that on Thursday. Big news tomorrow coming out for afternoon. Keep an eye out for that. Make sure, website pickuptrucktalk.com, other videos on this channel. As always, thanks for watching. We will see you down the road.